Hey everybody, Michael from Pigeon Brewing Company. I'm here in our production facility and just trying to find ways to keep ourselves entertained and have a little bit of fun. So we're operating as much as we can right now. We just canned off a couple of beers, including a new release that we'll be telling you more about later, and kegged off some beer. Got some of our crew also working on refinishing tables, so just doing everything we can to stay busy and have some fun, including giving you a tour. I'll try and introduce everyone as we walk past them, but Rhino is going to kind of guide us through and talk about our facility and all the fun we have here. And I'm sorry I'm shaking. I always do a little bit, especially when I haven't had my morning beer. That's a joke. All right, Rhino, let me see if I can figure out how to turn this around.
Rolling?
We are rolling.
What's up, guys? Rhino from Pigeon. How are ya? So this is the new production facility. Forgive us, we're new at the whole Facebook Live thing, but we're having fun. So we'll start over here. So this is grain storage for all our specialty grain. We also have a silo outside. So that big silver thing on the side of the building is not a fermenter. It is a grain silo. It holds our malted barley. So as you drive by and see it, that's what it is. So follow me and we'll kind of walk through the brewing process. So in here we have our lab and planning room that's kind of being developed.
Hi, Amy.
We also have our crush room. So that is our mill where we actually crush the barley, and our flow meter that tells how much barley is going into our batches. The hopper back there is for specialty grain. And then all the white pipe, if you follow it, goes up there into our grist case where we hold our next recipe that's about to be mashed in when we're brewing. Head over to the brew system. Watch your step, everyone.
If you do have any questions, feel free to shout them out. I will read them off to Rhino as we go.
Yes, perfect. And yes, I am drinking a beer. Yes, it is noon, but guess what? I'm a brewer. I can do it. So this is our 20-barrel brew house. It's made by a company called Newlands out of British Columbia. Obviously, as you can see by all the custom stuff, it was made for us. It is what they call a 3-vessel system. We have a mash lauter tun, a boil kettle, and a separate whirlpool. We also have 2 vessels in back, which is our hot liquor tank and our cold liquor tank. Basically, it's a water heater and a water cooler. There's 4 ingredients in beer: water, barley, hops, and yeast. So the first 2 get mixed up into our first vessel, which is the mash tun. We want to go up on the deck and show
Yeah,
the inside
let's
thing.
walk on up.
Let's do it. Lights on. So inside the mash lauter tun, you see the rakes there. They are what they say. They're a rake. And if you look down at the bottom, that's our false bottom. That's basically like a giant pasta strainer. So what we do is we mix the crushed barley with warm water, and we basically start activating enzymes that are in the grain. That's going to start converting the starches in the grain into simple sugars the yeast can eat. We then rinse the grain off and leave the grain itself behind and want to collect the sugar liquid, which we call wort, which is unfermented beer. Spelled W-O-R-T, pronounced wort. Go figure. Anyway, we transfer over to our second vessel, which is our boil kettle.
Hey, Dale.
That's where we add our hops at different intervals to bitter the beer, add flavor to the beer. Traditionally, beer was made a lot like soup. They added hops at different times to add different flavors. Otherwise, beer would be very sweet if you didn't balance it out with some sort of bittering. Hops was obviously the most popular thing that stuck around, and that's what we still use for most all of our brewing processes today. What they didn't realize at the time is they're also sanitizing it, so that's why beer was so highly regarded. You couldn't drink water from the well, but if you made beer with it, what they didn't realize when they were boiling it, they were killing all the microorganisms. We still boil it today for those 2 reasons, for sanitation and for flavoring different things, or adding hops at different times to add flavor to the beer. And I'm kind of going over this really fast. If anybody has any more specific questions, like Michael said, hit us up on Facebook Live. Worst case, I'll hit you up afterwards.
Where do we get our hops from?
All over. We get a lot from Michigan for some of our beers, and then some of them we get from the Pacific Northwest. But hops are kind of like wine. Some it's terroir, where there's certain regions that hops grow well, just like grapefruits grow good in Florida. So there's German hops that are what they call some of your more noble hops. Those we get imported. Some hops are proprietary, like Amarillo, for instance. We have to buy from Pacific Northwest, but we do use some of our hops for shifting sands that are right from Michigan here. So all over, it's kind of as local as we can be. A lot of our barley comes out of Minnesota, North Dakota, things like that. So we're as local as we can be, but there again, barley grows good in North Dakota, so that's where they get it. So once we're done boiling, we transfer to our third vessel, which is our whirlpool. That is basically a
Shit. I made the mistake of buying everyone Nerf guns for Christmas. That's what I get.
So that's our head brewer, Chad, sniping from the tower over there. So this is our third vessel. It's our whirlpool, and it does what it says. It basically whirlpools the liquid. If you look inside there, it'll basically get the wort spinning at a decent rate of speed, and basically all the solids will collect in the middle. So all the hop matter, proteins that are broken out during the boil, all that good stuff will collect in the middle. We can pull nice clean wort off the side, and then coming downstairs, we go through our heat exchanger, and we hook a hose up to here, so we do what we call soft plumb from here, where we add a hose, transfer to one of our fermenters in the cellar, which we'll talk about in a second. This is basically a giant radiator. Hot wort goes in one side, cold water goes in the other, and they make a pass. They never touch each other on different sides of the panels there. Hot water comes out the other side and goes into our HLT to be our hot liquor tank to be the next batch of beer. And beer comes out at temperature right around just under 70 degrees. That is safe for the yeast. If you pitched yeast in 200-degree wort, you would have just basically killed it. So
Termo says he loves you.
love you too, Termo. Going down into our cellar lane. So these are all, most all of these tanks were brought over from our oil production facility. If you guys were downtown when we were moving, you got to see these brought down on flatbed trailers from Heavy Lift. Shout out to those guys, they did a great job moving all this stuff. These big guys here are 60-barrel fermenters. We have to brew 3 batches on the 20-barrel system to fill those. We have a 20-barrel tank that we do some R&D batches in, or smaller batches. Right now we got some Walter Gets Buzzed in there hanging out with some coffee. These are 40-barrel tanks, so 2 turns. And then we also have our equipment from the tap room down here now. So our 7-barrel tanks and our 3-barrel tanks from the original system. So these are the tanks we originally started with that were over in the tap room. Now they are here with us. So awesome. So in the cellar here is where we add our 4th ingredient, the yeast. That's where it technically becomes beer and starts the fermentation process. It'll sit in the tanks for about 2 weeks. In that time, the yeast are eating the sugars that we made in the wort, excreting alcohol, off-gassing CO2, and generating heat. So obviously we want to keep the alcohol in there. We want to get the CO2 out at this point, so that's why you see these hoses attached. Those are what we call blow-off hoses, so CO2 can escape. We fill the buckets up with sanitizer and water. Air from the atmosphere can't get back into the tank. And then if you look up, there's all sorts of black piping. That's all for food-grade glycol. Never touches the beer, but it's basically a coolant. So it goes between the walls of the fermenters, and the cool thing with that is we can have, that tank is off, this tank is at 30 degrees, this tank can be at 60 degrees. We can do what we want. Every tank is happy depending on where we're fermenting. After we're done fermenting, after the beer passes all our checks, it's ready to be beer. We do what we call cold crash, where we basically put the yeast to sleep. We drop the temperature of the tank, let the yeast settle out, and then we transfer the uncarbonated still beer into one of our packaging tanks around the corner, and I'll show you that in a second. Quick glance at our 3.5 barrel system. kind of our R&D, small batch support brewing. So if you see all the fun stuff in the tap room, chances are it came off of this system. And we're going to be, now that it's all under one roof, we'll be doing some more fun stuff like Beach Please that we just canned this morning. We can do small 7-barrel runs just for stuff for the tap room. Oh, brewer sighting.
Uh-oh.
This is Sean.
You're spotting a brewer in the wild.
So yeah, so keg washer is over here. That's been great for us. That's been a huge help. We can wash 2 kegs at a time. Every 5 minutes we're cranking off a couple clean kegs, and it's pretty automated, so you don't have to be there doing every step of the way. Sean again. And we also have can storage. So if you notice, all those cans are silver. We are, except for the Walter Gets Buzz cans, those are left from the old days. We switched over to labels because this can be whatever we want it to be. We can make multiple brands out of a pallet. Like today we ran some Beach Please, then we ran a little more Mom just because, well, we're not doing as much draft, so we might as well put it in a can. So moving on, we got some shipping stuff here, our pallet wrapper, dirty kegs, storage. Back made the loop, back to ingredient storage. And this is our canning line. So basically, really quick, what happens is cans get raised up and pushed off our depalletizer. They come down the chute here. Oh, and there's our canning tech, Zach. Zach's one of our cellar operators here, also runs our canning line.
Mark just asked when we will have cans of Beach Please in the tap room. I believe they will actually be there this afternoon when we open at 3, Mark. Can you hear me?
Yep, we'll make it a point to get a few cases down there for when we open. Back to the canning process. It goes, we print a date on the bottom of the can, so hopefully we're at about a 80% hit rate, 90% hit rate, so hopefully on a 6-pack, you can at least see the date so you can tell that your product's nice and fresh. Comes down through what we call our twist rinse, where it gets rinsed out with sanitized water, just to knock anything out of the can. Then it comes down, we'll go around the front of the machine here.
Mark, to answer your question about Catalina, stay tuned next week. We've had to change some of our summer release plans, and so now you're going to get earlier access to our fun new cans.
Great. To the front of the machine here, the cans come down, they get purged with CO2, which helps defend it from beer's #1 enemy, which is atmospheric air or oxygen, which will start destroying beer. So the second you crack a can of beer, say, we've all had that last can of beer sitting out on the deck at night after a bonfire. You go to grab it the next morning, smells kind of funky. Obviously air got to it, CO2 purged off. But that CO2 purges the air out of the can so we can fill it with nice cold beer. After that, it comes down, it picks up a lid. Standard beverage lid, be a beer, can of Coke, name it. Comes down, gets a seam put on. And at this, right now we're running about high 30s cans per minute on this machine. So basically a little under a case and a half a minute we're running. Then it goes down through packaging. So table that can collect when we're doing label changes, gets a label put on, comes down, gets a 6-pack ring put on, and then we offload by hand. So we build pallets over here. We have a guy grabbing, I was just gonna say, so there's the new Beach Please.
There you are.
Fresh off the line.
Just ran those today, and we planned on releasing them a little bit later in the season, but we figure we can all use some sunshine in our lives. So those will be, a small run will be in the tap room, hopefully this afternoon.
All right, follow me. We also ran some Mom today, a little more Mom love. And then once everything is packaged, whether it be draft or probably more so now can, we bring it into our cold room. So this is a huge new addition. With the new production facility, we actually have a lot more cold storage where we can actually...
Excuse me for a second while I pull my sleeves down.
Yeah, it's a little chilly.
I'm already cold and shaking, and now I'm really cold.
Those
all
office boys aren't used to the cold, but we can store everything in here, keep the beer nice and fresh till it's ready to go out to store shelves, and hopefully soon, once we get through this together, some bars and restaurants again.
So the good news is We have beer.
Please come by 6-pack. Well, cool. So,
Yeah, Rhino, anything you want to say about how we do, how do we design the beers? So,
oh, sure. Great question. It's really, we've always, especially these past tough couple days here, we've always prided ourselves on being a family. And that's kind of the whole thing. Everybody has ideas, from the bartenders up to the owners. So we get together as a group, come up with an idea. Could start as a joke. It could start as, we had some of our best mainstay beers started as homebrew recipes.
Walk towards the label shed.
So we get together as a group. We brew a small, when I say small, 3.5 barrel batch usually of like an R&D batch. Try it, see what we like. We'll do a tasting panel. If everything tastes the way we want it, then we'll bring it up and it can get scaled up from there. So some of our summer releases started just like that, just a fun 3.5 barrel summer batch. So
absolutely. We've got a couple of empty barrels left over from this year's Cinegram release. When we're really cranking, this whole wall is covered in barrels. It's a beautiful sight. And it does smell amazing. To answer questions about upcoming releases, I just figured we're not really holding anything close to the chest anymore. Times have changed, so here are two of our other upcoming brands. We've got Hole in One and Catalina.
So any questions from the Facebook world, Michael?
Do we have any questions before we sign off and go crush some lunch?
Yeah. Well, like I said too, guys, I kind of went super brief. We love nerding out about beer, so hopefully we can have a beer in the tap room here sooner than later, but everybody stay safe and healthy. But Michael, I'm sure if there's any questions that come across Facebook, you can bump them to me or whoever, and we will chirp back at you.
Absolutely. If you do have any questions, once we sign off, just comment and we'll get an answer to you as soon as possible. We do have another Facebook Live tomorrow. I'll actually be giving a tour at the museum. Now I'm just randomly staring at Rhino. Sorry. I'll turn it around here if I can figure it out. I don't know where the button went. There it is. Tomorrow I will be doing a Facebook Live at the museum. We'll actually have a tour of the brewery exhibit there. I've got some of my items on display, so I'm looking forward to seeing you all virtually-ish and making the best of the times. Take care. Oh, come on. I'm so bad at this. Hey, everybody, still here.